Alright, today we're going to graph linear inequalities. And so an inequality is just something that's not going to be equal. And so we use the symbols greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. So let's go ahead and start graphing this. So we have it's already in slope-intercept form. So we know our b is a positive 4, so we'll go up to 4. And we know that our m is the number in front of x. And when there's no number, it's just a 1. And so that means our slope is just 1 over 1. So go ahead and graph 1 over 1. So now the only difference when you're graphing inequalities is don't draw the line yet. So go ahead and put your dots on, put your points on. And so now, before you draw your line, there's a couple things you need to worry about. So these are our rules for graphing inequalities. Alright, so the first thing, instead of drawing a line, if we have the symbol of less than or greater than, we are actually going to draw a dashed line. If it's less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, we will end up drawing a solid line. So as we look at this, we look at the symbol now and see the symbol is a greater than, and so this is going to end up being a dashed line. And so we just go here and we kind of connect the dots with the dash. And so now here's our dashed line. And so the second rule we have to worry about is that so if we have a less than or equal to, we are going to shade below the line. And if we have a greater than or equal to, we shade above the line. Alright, so now we go back and we look at this greater than. So here we are with a greater than, so that means we're going to shade above the line. And so what I do is I just go and put my pencil on the y-intercept and I go above it. And I draw a little arrow. So any dot that I have means I'm going to shade above that dot, above the line. And so we just quickly shade like so. And so this graph represents all the possible solutions. So if we go back and look at our equation, y is greater than x plus 4, and we randomly pick a dot, any point. Let's say we pick this dot right here, which is negative 9, comma 4. So negative 9, comma 4. We want to see, is that a solution? So we put our 4 here for the y, our negative 9 for the x, and we do the math. Is 4 greater than negative 5? Well, of course, that's true. So it's a solution. Now if we wanted to check another point, let's say we were to check this one, 5 comma negative 1, and so we plug in our y of negative 1, we plug in our 5, so now this becomes negative 1 greater than 9. Is negative 1 greater than 9? No, so that's false, and we would expect that to be false because it's not in the shaded region. So anything in the shaded region is a solution. Anything outside of the shaded region is not a solution. So let's look at our next example. This would be a good one for you to try on your own. So pause the video, graph it, and come back and check. So as we look at this equation, y is less than or equal to x. A couple things to remember. If there's no number in front of x, it's a 1. If there's no number after the x, it's a 0. So it means my y-intercept is 0, and my slope is 1 over 1. So my line looks like up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, and down 1, left 1. So now, before we draw our line, we need to look at our inequality. And so since it has a line underneath it, we draw a line. So if it has a line underneath it, we draw a line. That means I can draw my line. And now we're going to look at where are we going to shade. So we go back and less than. Now if you think of less than kind of like means below. So whenever it's a less than, we're going to shade below the line. So now I just put my pencil on the y-intercept. Above would be up here, so below would be down here. So I just draw some arrows to remind me where to graph. So I'm always going to be below this line. And so I shade like this. So that's our graph of y is less than or equal to x. Alright, let's look at our next example. So as you see, this x is less than -1. It's not in slope-intercept form, but hopefully you remember that whenever it's an x, it's going to end up being a vertical line. So we go to -1 on our x, and just draw a couple of points. And now draw our line. So we have our vertical line here. And so now, oh, I messed up. I didn't want to draw a solid line because this is a less than. So if it's a less than or a greater than, we have to draw a dashed line. So I'll come back and draw the dashed line. And so now the second step in graphing is, do I shade above or below? And so as you look at this, well, how would I shade above or below a vertical line? And so that rule doesn't really work when you have a vertical line. And so just think about what this really says, that any answer I pick has to be less than -1. So where are the answers less than -1? Are they on the left or are they on the right? So if you think the right, is 5 less than -1? No. Is -6 less than -1? Yeah, any number to the left will be smaller. So that means we need the shade on the left. So our rules work unless it's a vertical line. So when it's a vertical line, just use common sense. Numbers to the left are less than, numbers to the right are greater than. Alright, let's look at our last example. And so notice that the equation is not in slope-intercept form. So our first step is to put this in slope-intercept form. And so as we move the x to the other side, we minus the x, and we minus the x. And so now these go away, and I get -x minus 1. And so now we're going to put a little warning here, something to be careful of. Whenever I divide by a negative, I'm going to divide by a -1. Whenever you divide an inequality by a -1, what's going to happen is your inequality is going to be reversed, it's going to be flipped. So my less than then becomes a greater than. So a negative divided by a negative gives me a positive 1x. A negative divided by a negative gives me a positive 1. So now this is what I'm going to graph. Y is greater than x plus 1. So we just come over here to our y-intercept of 1 and our slope. Our number in front's a 1. We'll put 1 over 1. And so now we look at it. Is it going to be a solid line or dashed line? So since it doesn't have a line underneath it, it's going to be a dashed line. So just go ahead and draw your dashed line. Now, you have to look at the sign and say, am I going to shade above or below? So if it's greater than is going to be above. And so just put your pencil on your y-intercept. All the numbers above that are up here. So that means we are going to shade everything above the line. So this is the graph of x minus y is less than negative 1, which when solved for y becomes y is greater than x plus 1.